everybody, and welcome back to the Elms. My name's Kurt. You're stuck with me. Sorry about that. Our plan today, we're going to show you guys how to make a net that you can use to catch dragonflies. Dragonflies are seriously fast and seriously smart, and it's really kind of tricky to catch them. But we're going to go through a bunch of different sorts of nets, and we'll show you how to make at least one of them. First sort of net that one uses to catch any sort of insect, and it's by far the most common of them, is called an aerial net. It looks like this. Aerial nets are swept really quickly through the air, and they're used to snag insects in mid-flight. The net is very soft, it doesn't damage the wing of the insect, but it's also very fragile. So if you want to catch an insect that happens to be buried in leaves or buried in grass or brush or somewhere else, then you use what's called a sweep net. It looks like this. It's made of a heavy canvas. Canvas is way too strong for a dragonfly's wings. If a dragonfly gets caught in there, the canvas can damage their wings. So generally speaking, you wouldn't use this to catch dragonflies because they're so fragile. But you could use it to catch beetles and other sorts of insects you might find buried in branches. You can't even see them. You just sweep this through there and then take a look, see what you get. The kind of net we're going to make is long and skinny. Kind of looks like this. And it takes advantage of two qualities of dragonflies. First, when they're caught, they tend to fly upwards. So this net will have a hole in the bottom, and you'll lower it over top of the dragonfly. And then when the dragonfly flies off the perch, because he's really scared, it's going to fly upwards. It's not going to fly towards the bottom of the net, it's going to fly to the top of the net. And up there, it's going to get stuck. They're not smart enough to fly back down and escape out the bottom again. So this is the sort of net we're going to build. Handy, works very well. Usually it's held on the end of a very long pole so that you can reach the dragonflies. So if you are ready, let's get started. All right, materials, what you're going to need to make this net. First, you need a fabric. The fabric we're going to use is called tulle. It looks like this. It's used to make wedding veils and your little sister's ballet tutu, which you don't want to steal the tulle from her. She won't be too pleased with you. But it's just a very light fabric, easily found at Walmart or anywhere else. It's really cheap. You don't need nearly as much as I have here, but this is one fabric that we're going to use for the netting. Then you're going to need something that you can make a stiff circle out of. In our case, we're going to use wire. So this is really thick 12-gauge fencing wire, and I'm just going to bend it into a circle and then tape the circle together with some tape. So it holds in a stiff circle. We're going to make two of those, one for the top of our net and one for the bottom of our net. Then you're going to need something to measure, because you're going to have to measure your circle of your circle that you created, which can be any size. We're going to make ours somewhere between 12 and 14 inches in diameter across the center of the circle. And we'll have to cut our tool to match that shape. And I'll show you some math in a sec on how to do that. You're also going to need, in my case, because I'm using a really thick wire, I'm going to need something I can cut that wire with. I need a pair of scissors to cut the tool. And if you have a sewing machine at home, ideally that's the way you would assemble this, with a sewing machine. However, we don't have one here, and it's even faster and easier with just a stapler. Instead of sewing your fabric together, you can staple it together. It won't last as long, it won't look as pretty, but it does the job well enough. All right, if you're ready, here we go. So, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to make my circle. Your circle will look something like that. Make it as good a circle as you possibly can. Then, when you tape it, make sure your tape, if you use tape, make sure it covers the ends of your wire so your wire doesn't poke holes in your netting. So there's one circle. Now we make the second one. It should look just like it. And I bend that around, try to make it a nice looking circle. Very nice. Two circles. Pretty much same size. Doesn't have to be exact. Close enough is good enough. So those are our two circles for our net. Now we need to cut our material, but first we need to do our math. So there's a trick in math, and we'll show you this in a sec. But you measure the diameter of your circle, which is the distance across the middle of your circle. We're going to measure that, and in this case it's about 14 1/4 inches. So 14.25 or 14 1/4 inches across the center of this circle. We want to know, because we're going to have to wrap a net around the outside of the circle, how long is it? How long is the distance from here all the way around the outside of the circle back to here again? What is that? It's called the circumference of a circle. There's some math for that. I'll show you that now. All right, let's take a look at this black circle. The black line around the outside of our circle that makes our circle is called the circumference. We call that the distance around the outside of this circle, the black line. The red line across the middle of the circle is called the diameter, and it's just the distance across the center. The relationship between the diameter and the circumference is constant. It never changes, no matter how big or small the circle is. And it's a constant number, and it's a great number to memorize. The number itself is 3.14, and it's called pi. You know pi. You can celebrate March 14th, Pi Day, if you want to celebrate Pi Day. But pi represents the relationship between the circumference and the diameter. It's a ratio. Basically what it's saying is that there are 3.14 diameters to one circumference. So it would take 3.14 of these red lines to stretch all the way around the outside and be equal to the distance around the outside of that circle. So we can write that down as an equation if we write the circumference is equal then to the diameter times pi. Right? Piece of cake. We already know in our case what the diameter is, and you'll know that too. After you make your circle and measure across the center of it, you'll know what your diameter is. In my case, the diameter was 14.25 inches. So we can rewrite our equation and plug in what represents the letter D in this case. So our circumference then is going to be equal to the diameter of our circle, which was 14.25 inches. We're going to multiply that times pi, and that's going to equal 44.75 inches. That's the minimum length of one side of that piece of fabric that we need to cut. The other side of that piece of fabric will be the height of your net. Depends how tall you want your net to be. That's not so critical. You can make that whatever you want. Just make sure that you measure across the center of your circle, multiply that times pi, and that'll give you the distance of one side of your fabric, the side that is going to wrap completely around the circle. All right, so you've done your math now, right? In our case, our circle was 14.25 inches in diameter across the top. We multiply that times pi, and that gave us 44.75 inches, 44.75 inches. When you cut your fabric, be sure to cut your fabric significantly larger than your measurement. It's better to have too much than too little. If you have too much, you can always cut some off. If you have too little, you're out of luck. So, all we need to do now is begin to assemble. So you take the edge that you measured of your circumference, and that edge is going to be used to attach your bottom circle first. So your bottom circle, put it in the middle, more or less in the middle, and you can begin to staple it around. You can choose, if you wish, to staple the long edge first. And that way you'll have a little rectangular piece that you can use. To do this, you're just folding over the same amount of material on the bottom, fold it over top of your circle, and then staple it down. You don't have to be all that precise or accurate with this. If you want to make a really nice one, you could use fabric around the edges. Sew the tool, this light net mesh fabric, onto, like, I don't know, a torn up t-shirt or piece of nylon, maybe an old nylon tarp or something, a fly from a tent or something, piece of fabric you have laying around. Doesn't really matter, but that'll make it a lot stiffer, and it'll make your seam a lot stronger than using staples like this. All right, so our bottom is now on. Looks like that. Now we need to sew this side. So to sew the side, we're just going to find the edge. Pinch it together and staple along this edge. I like to fold it over a lot when I do that. So I've got this edge, I've got this edge, these two edges, I roll them over, kind of make something like that, and that's where I'm going to put my staple, right down the middle of that. We're going to do that to the entire length of our net. I chose 4 feet, but I can trim off excess. Once I decide where to put the top ring, it'll define how tall the net will be. Alright, so now I have my net. It's mostly stapled. I didn't finish stapling it all the way to the bottom because I need to determine how long I want my net to be. You want to put your staples, by the way, long enough so that there's not holes in the side of it big enough for a dragonfly to escape through. Can't have big holes in the side. But if you bend it over and overlap it like I did that seam, it works fine. So I'm stapled down to about here, and I'd kind of like my net to be probably about this long. So I'm going to put my second metal hoop, circle, right at this point. Now you see I'm tying a knot in the top of this. This is sort of the next step, but it also is going to take care of this extra fabric that I don't want to get in my way. But you're going to need a knot in the top, and that seals the top, keeps the dragonfly from escaping. And my net's going to look something like that. Not too hard, huh? Not the nicest looking thing in the world, but this will do the trick, absolutely. So we got a big open hole in the bottom. We've got it sealed at the top with our knot. Now our next step is we need to tie this onto the end of a pole. So I'm just going to use a piece of old rope I had laying around to do that. And so now my finished net looks like this. So how do you use this net that we've spent all this time making? If you've made it this far into the video, well, you must be pretty committed because this is terribly long. So this is how you use one of these nets. Okay, that's not how it's done. This is how you use one of these nets. You want to do this very slowly, but first raise it really high above where your dragonfly is. Remember, our dragonfly is perched on the end of this little green stake here. We're going to bring it slowly over top of them. And then when the net's over top, slowly bring it down. At this point, somewhere along the line, the dragonfly would have got scared and flown up to the top of the net. Once he's there, he'll be trapped at the top. You don't need to worry about it. And then you just bring the net to you, and you should be able to reach your hand up under there and grab the dragonfly. Show you how that works next. Now, have I mentioned that dragonflies are seriously cool critters, seriously fast, seriously smart, and very interesting to watch. They are also completely, utterly harmless to human beings, which means that when we're handling them, we're far more likely to cause harm to them than they are to cause harm to us. So when you handle a dragonfly, there's 2 ways to grab your dragonfly when he's in the net. The first way is to grab him by the wings. Grab all 4 of the wings and hold it up. You can get a really good look at the body and that long ovipositor sticking out the back of the dragonfly. You can turn it around. Safe way to do it, but you can't see the wings very well. So the second way to hold on to a dragonfly is, instead of grabbing the wings, you grab all 6 of the legs. Gently hold those legs. Prevent the dragonfly from flying away. He'll nibble on your finger a little bit while you're doing that. But you won't harm the dragonfly. Dragonfly can't fly off, and you can get a really good look then at the body and the wings and everything else about him. When you're done, you simply slowly release your grip on the dragonfly, and he'll fly off. And that's it. Bob's your uncle. This way you can catch lots of dragonflies, take a good look at them, and let them go without harming them. All right, so that's it. That's how you make one of these nets and how you use it. It's not very hard, so go home, find some materials, scavenge them if you must, but don't steal from your sister Tutu. Make yourself a net, catch some dragonflies. Seriously cool little critters. Till next time, see ya.